Okay. So, hi everyone. My name is Yesenia. I use she, they pronouns. I'm a junior majoring in urban studies, and I also grow food at the Sustainable Food Garden at CSUN, and I also help run their social media. So, today's webinar is on seeds and how powerful they are, and we're going to get more in depth on them, but seeds save us. Yes, they do. Okay, next. Okay, so I wanted to give a land acknowledgement. I am on Tongava and Chumash land, also known as Inglewood. I think it's important to acknowledge this because colonialism is an ongoing process and it's happening right now, but it's also important to acknowledge this, especially when we're talking about plants and soil and all that, because native plants exist and they are the ones keeping our ecosystems in place and in every community we're in. But many of them specifically in California are like drought resistant and fire resistant, and provide pollinators with food all year long. And it's important to protect them, especially because many of them are also endangered or like on the watch list. And one way we could do this is by seed keeping. Actually, Richard, who works at the Sustainability Center, he's like working on a project and he's collected a lot of seeds, a lot of like native plant seeds, and is growing them and propagating them and distributing them to the community. So if you want to get involved with that project, I can give y'all his information. Just remind me after. I'll put his email. He's always looking for helpers, so that would be very cool. Let's move on. What is seed keeping? Well, seed keeping is like when you literally collect seeds from a plant or like from a fruit, and you wash them and you dry them out and you save them for the next season. But it's also a direct action to protect plant diversity. New variations can be found by people who seed keep, but seed keeping is also crucial in preserving culture and food sovereignty. So seeds are our elders. They've lived for many, many, many years. So we must protect and honor them. In this seed keeping process, seeds are very much saving us. And seeds are like the main character in this life, because if it weren't for them, we probably would be dead. And they're like living, and they just make things happen. But also like right now, seeds are experiencing privatization and extinction. In the US, there has been an extreme loss of seed variety. From 1903 to 1983, we lost about 93% of unique seed strands behind some of the most popular produce. Today, 4 companies control more than 60% of global seed sales. 3 of the market leaders are also major pesticide producers. So that's scary. Seed corporations are harmful, and they're so bad. The largest seed corporation is now Bayer, but recently Bayer bought out Monsanto, and if y'all have never heard of them, I have never heard of them before this research, but they used to be the largest seed company in the world and controlled about 23% of all seeds in the world. They were founded in the US in 1901, and their first product was the artificial sweetener saccharin, but the company eventually developed into one of the biggest chemical producers in the US and began pesticide production after World War II. And Monsanto's dioxin contaminated herbicide, Agent Orange, caused millions of cases of poisoning when the US military when they released that herbicide in the Vietnam War. In 1976, Monsanto launched the herbicide glyphosate, which rapidly became the company's most important source of revenue and has now become the world's best-selling herbicide. So in this map, or this chart, you can see that only 4 corporations are controlling the global seed market. But these corporations are harmful. In 2008, the journal Science reported that around the globe, about 400 coastal regions covering an area equal to the size of the UK were dead because of fertilizer runoff and oxygen deficiency. So seed keeping is a form of resistance as seeds become privatized and they become privatized. Food justice and food sovereignty also does too, because seeds are the foundation to our food system, and seed keeping allows us to build strong communities in connection with the land. So I just shared a little bit about what's happening, but there's so much more to this. This kind of just was an intro, but if y'all want to learn more, I suggest doing your own research and start learning how to seed keep. I'm gonna show a video by Soulfire Farm. They are a farm in upstate New York, and they do amazing work. So this is just a little video, and they're gonna show us how to seed save tomatoes, or save tomato seeds. So here it is.
Action in connection with the land. So your first step in seed keeping is to create a crop plan, and choosing a crop and creating a plan that accounts for space and population size. And so you're going to have to know some key things as a seed saver, and that is which plants self-pollinate and which plants cross-pollinate. So some crops that are good for beginning seed savers are crops that are self-pollinating, and that means that their flower structure allows them to pollinate and fertilize themselves. And examples of those are tomatoes, lettuce, bush pole, lima beans, English peas, southern peas, cowpeas, which are right here, eggplant, peppers, okra. So cross-pollination is when pollen from one plant can pollinate a plant of a different variety, and the resulting fruit of that variety will have characteristics of both its parents, and it won't grow true to type or true to what you thought it might be, because it now has pollen from a different type of plant. And so plants that can do that are things like squashes and pumpkins, cucumbers, broccoli, kale, cabbage, collards, melons, beets, carrots, celery, corn, Swiss chard, radish, spinach, and mustard greens. And so that's why going back to having a crop plan and incorporating prep or isolation distance is really important if you're trying to grow those crops for seed. So isolation distance is the space that's required between cross-compatible crops to prevent cross-pollination. And crop planning is really important. You can also use physical barriers or use borders of flowers or other kind of flower distractions to try to help to reduce the chances of something cross-pollinating. So Amira and I are going to show you how to save seed tomato seeds from field to storage. So knowing when to harvest tomatoes is important, and you're looking for tomatoes that have a really deep, rich color and have some softness to them. So you harvest the tomatoes from the field, take them back into an area where you can grade them, and you can select for the best traits that you want to pass on to future generations. Tomatoes are generally self-pollinating, but some varieties do have more open flowers, so they can cross-pollinate with other tomato plants. And the selections that you want to make as you're grading could be based on a number of different things. They could be for aesthetics, they could be for taste, they could be for days of maturity, so how quickly they ripen, or other characteristics that you decide. When you get your tomato, you want to cut it in half to expose as many seeds in the seed cavity as possible. Squeeze that pulp into a container. We use the bucket, but a lot of seed saving is going to happen in your kitchen with a lot of everyday common materials like cutting boards and knives, sieves, and bowls. So you squeeze all the pulp into the bucket, and you're going to start a fermentation process by adding some water to that container, and the water is going to help prevent the seeds and the pulp from drying out. So you'd cover that with some kind of breathable material at home. I sometimes use a coffee filter on top of a mason jar lid. And you're going to let it sit out of direct sunlight for 3 to 5 days. And during that process, it's going to get really funky. And you want that funk because that funk is helping to remove the gelatinous sac around the tomato seeds, which act as a germination inhibitor on the plant, on the fruit. So cover it, label it, let it sit for 3 to 5 days, and let those tomato seeds ferment. And then you're going to start the decanting process. So after 3 to 5 days of your tomatoes fermenting, they're going to get really funky and have some white bubbly foam at the top. And so at this point, you want to add water and start mixing the mixture so that the ripe seeds will settle at the bottom of the container and the unviable seeds and all the pulp and extra stuff will float to the top. You want to pour off the top and then add more water and continue that process of adding water, mixing, pouring off, adding water, mixing, and pouring off until you're left with clean water and ripe seed. At that point, you want to strain the seeds in a colander, shake off as much excess water as you can. You can squeeze out some of that water with your hand, or you can shake the colander back and forth. Then you want to take the seeds, lie them out on a flat surface. That can be on top of a brown bag or on top of coffee filters. But I don't recommend paper towels because the seeds can sometimes stick to the fibers in the paper towel. They're going to dry on that surface for 2 to 3 weeks. Make sure you label with as much information as you can on there because tomato seeds all look alike. And you can do that drying out process for 2 to 3 weeks in a basement with a fan, but definitely out of direct sunlight. So you want to store them in a container with a lid, a screw top lid, to keep out any critters or anything that might be interested in eating those safe tomato seeds. And properly stored tomato seeds can remain viable for up to 12 years. We're also showing you how to save seed from hot peppers. And so it's very important to use gloves when you're saving seed from hot peppers, spicy peppers like cayenne peppers, una mulata peppers. Knowing, again, going back to the understanding the relationships that you have with plants and ripeness and what they look like when they're ripe. Most peppers, when they're ripe, are going to turn a bright red. And so you want to cut them in half to expose as many of the seeds as possible. Sometimes you also need to cut them off at the top and before you can kind of get to the seeds in the middle of the fruit. And you can scrape the seeds off of the pith, which is that white material inside of the fruit, either using your fingers, again with gloves, very important, or using a knife. And so peppers, unlike tomatoes, don't require any kind of fermenting process or decanting process. You can just take those ripe seeds, dry them out on a flat surface, make sure you have a good label on them, and let them dry out again for about 2 to 3 weeks before you can store them. Clean them further if you'd like, or store them. So here, Amira and I are.
Okay. So yeah, that was Soulfire Farm. They farm in upstate New York and provide food for communities in food deserts. But they are awesome, so check them out. So next steps, what can you do or how can you start? I would suggest try seed keeping at home or at a local community garden. Many community gardens offer like seed keeping workshops or stuff like that. But you can also start a seed library in your own community and share your seeds with everybody. I think like that's such a powerful start. And I actually just started planting beets and carrots at my house, and I'm hoping to seed save them. So I'm excited to start learning and continue to learn and be part of this movement. So these are just my sources. If anyone has any questions, y'all can drop them in the Q&A box and I can answer them. But thank you so much. I hope that was helpful. Oh, I see one. What is a seed library for those who may not know? Thank you. Yeah, so seed libraries are just basically a storage of seeds. Any kinds of seeds, you store them and folks are able to come and grab seeds, or just preserving those seeds are important, especially because like, you know, you'll need them in the future, and seeds are expensive, and now they're getting more expensive now that like there's limited variations of certain like fruits or plants. And yeah, they're just like a library book. You have a library of books, and in the seed library you have a library of seeds. Thank you for your question. Are there any local gardens to volunteer at in the San Fernando Valley? Well, before the pandemic, the Sustainable Food Garden was open to volunteers, but with like all the increasing cases of COVID, we haven't opened up that opportunity for people. But I know of many other community gardens that are open to the public. If y'all are in the East Hollywood area, the East Hollywood Community Garden is open, and they're amazing. They also collect compost, so you can help out with the compost or drop some compost off. But I don't know of any other gardens in the San Fernando Valley. Sorry. I know that there might be, but now because of COVID, they're probably closed. But yeah, thank you for your questions. If anyone has any other questions, I can stay for a little bit longer. But if not, you could also catch this recording on the Sustainability Center's website, the CSUN Sustainability Center's website, and share this if you want with anyone. And yeah, thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you all after the pandemic. But oh, I see some other question. Is it possible to dry out seeds too much? I don't think so, just because seeds, like was mentioned in the video that I showed, seeds can live up to, or specifically tomato seeds can live up to 12 years in storage. I don't know exactly to answer your question, but maybe if they're in the sun for way too long and they're not stored in like a proper sealed container or anything like that, maybe they can be too dried out. But if you store them in a container or like in a little bag, in a paper bag, I think they should be fine for years. But I would try it out, because sometimes all seeds are different. Like some will still be good and then some won't. Of course, thank you. What are some seeds beginners can plant? Honestly, I would say tomatoes. What was easy for me actually was tomatoes, eggplants, lettuce, kale. I would say like self-pollinated plants and vegetables, just because they don't need that much time to germinate. But those were some that were easier for me. I'm still like, I guess, a beginner. I would say moderate beginner, but those were very easy for me to grow. And also cilantro. I saved some cilantro seeds from last season and I planted them like maybe 2 weeks ago, and they're like growing. So those also cilantro was very easy for me to grow. But yeah, Sarah just posted that there's additional resources on our website. But yeah, I would check out Soul Fire Farm. They're very knowledgeable, and they provide so many videos during this pandemic. They have a lot of workshops on their YouTube channel actually, and they're very cool. So yeah, thank you all for your questions, and thank you all for being here. I'm gonna let you all go, but it was nice being here and community with y'all, and thank you once again.